Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. Today we have Jasmine Lawrence here to give a talk for us. Jasmine is an experienced product manager and entrepreneur with a passion for both consumer technology and business strategy. Um, so Jasmine, whenever you're ready, just take it away.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me today. I'm gonna try my best to share some slides with you. Okay, give me a second. All right,
Let's see if you can get this working.
I think it's gonna happen. Perfect,
Okay.
perfect, cool. Yeah. Am I gonna be able to see the comments from
No,
the?
but I will read it to
Okay,
you. And also,
okay,
if you're
great.
sharing your screen, I can't see it.
It says it's processing.
Okay,
Wait a
okay.
second. Yeah. If
Uh,
not,
do
I'll
you
try.
do you want to just like introduce yourself and what you
Yeah,
do? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to be talking to you a lot about my journey. So you'll get to learn a lot about me. But I am the founder of, how's this? Can you see the
Let's
sides now?
see. Yeah, I can add. There's two of them. This one has sound apparently.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
going to change the slide and that's the one. How's that? That's the one we should be
Yeah.
showing. That's perfect. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So yeah, hi, I'm Jasmine. I am a product manager at um, actually not the Everyday Robot Project anymore, but a company called Everyday Robots. We were kind of initiated in X the Moonshot Factory, which is formerly known as Google X, as a project to try and figure out if we could make learning robots to help people in their everyday lives. And I'll tell you more about that later. But I'm also the founder and CEO of a company called Eden Body Works, and we make natural hair and body care products. Eden Body Works is super special to me, one, because I started it when I was only in middle school, and also because it's an
Wow.
opportunity for me to kind of give back to my community and create products that really support Black and Brown women with curly hair, which is like a community that's often neglected. I'll tell you a bit more about that as well. So if you don't mind, Julia, I'll just dive into my journey, share some
Yeah.
lessons and learnings. And because it's Women's History Month, I wanted to just give a shout out at the end to three role models that were really impactful to me in my career.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All
Continue.
right, let's dive in. Cool. So my journey actually starts in a really weird place. Starts with lottery tickets. My grandfather used to play every day, and I used to take these lottery tickets and not so much do origami, but build cars and buildings and dresses and whatever I could using glue and tape and paper clips. I was a very creative kid growing up, and I knew that I wanted to do something where I got to build stuff or work with my hands. Um, and what happened was in 1999, I saw this movie called Bicentennial Man. And I highly recommend this movie. Check it out. But this movie really inspired me to pursue a career in robotics. I wanted to make the robots that were just like I saw in this movie. It was a career where no one could tell me what to do, where there was a lot to create and figure out, and so many different ways to make impact in that field, whether it was as a mechanical engineer or a programmer or even as a designer. There were so many options for me. I felt like, okay, I'm going to pursue this because it's not real. And
Mm.
then what happened a couple months later was that I ended up losing my hair, actually much earlier than seeing the movie. I ended up losing my hair to a chemical relaxer, and you can't see it well in this photo, but I got a
Oh.
perm to try and straighten my hair, and most of my hair fell out. And the reason why I got this perm in the first place was because as a kid, I used to do some modeling, and there were just these very Eurocentric images of beauty, and they were telling me like, hey, you need to look a certain way and be a certain way, and I was trying to attain that perception of beauty instead of creating my own. And so, to help grow my hair back, I decided to research and create my own products, natural products. And I started a company because I wanted to support other women and kind of embracing who they were and coming alongside them and say, here are some natural products that can help you achieve, combat the hair concerns you have, whether it's dryness or
Mm.
itchy scalp or things like that, rather than just saying, hey, I'm going to give you products so you can make your hair conform, to these standards of beauty. And so for me, my company was grew out of my own learning of how to take better care of myself and kind of take ownership of my own identity. So that that journey to start entrepreneurship actually began at a business camp hosted by the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. I highly recommend that you check them out as
Wow.
well. They're now an international program that teaches Black and Brown children from underrepresented communities, underfunded schools, how to use entrepreneurship to solve the problems that they see in their world. So, yeah. Starting my company in middle school was not easy. I did a lot of the research and formulation myself. I had notebooks and notebooks full of ideas of problems I wanted to solve and the natural ingredients that would solve them. Here's a picture of like an actual setup that was like on the shelves of beauty supply stores that I eventually worked my way into after going from door to door to my neighbors to literally going door to door to salons and stores. Um,
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
it was a bit of a challenge because lots of people would look down on me and say, hey, you're just a kid, you should be watching cartoons or playing
Mhm.
sports or something, you shouldn't be trying to make a company. But I actually did get some positive reinforcement from someone super famous who had a very similar journey to me, who was Oprah. And
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
when I was in 15, maybe that was like end of middle school, freshman year, I ended up being able to sit on her couch and hear her story of how she also lost her hair. She was also judged, even though she was already a professional journalist, judged for the way that she looked and the way that she showed up on camera. And so it was amazing to see how far that she came and that she was using her platform to elevate other kids from around the world who, despite their youth, were pursuing something that was amazing. And so right before going on that show, I had actually secured like a pilot contract with Walmart stores. And, they were willing to, try out my products, create space for multicultural hair care in their stores. And after being on the show and getting tons and tons of orders, they were like, hey, we want to expand to, 1,000 stores nationwide. So it was really great to have someone finally say, yes, you can do this, keep doing what you're doing, like you're really making an impact in the lives of people. And that was really the nudge that I needed to know that I wanted to keep doing this business, despite the fact that I was still very passionate about being an entrepreneur. I at that point had made my first $1 million before my sweet 16, before I could even
Oh.
drive. I had my parents working for me, my sisters working for me, my neighbors. So I was already a manager of people, and so much was going on in my life. But I never forgot that my original passion was to become an engineer one day. And so I applied and got into lots of different schools, but I decided on Georgia Tech. And I was so thrilled to go to the school, not only because it's a great, top 10 engineering school, great computer science program, but because it had a large number of women graduates, had a large number of African American graduates. I felt like I would fit in and I would be able to find community here, knowing that there's such a shortage of women and minorities in computing. I was very concerned about being isolated like I was in kind of the teenpreneur space, right? I didn't know other teenagers who had their own companies
Yeah.
managing like deals with major retailers. And so I really wanted to stave off kind of that sense of loneliness. And I definitely found a great community at Georgia Tech. I found professors. I actually studied under Professor Andrea Tomaz, and she let me into her lab with like half of a class's worth of programming under my belt. I was just learning Java while I was doing research in her lab, and that was the first time, going from seeing that movie to being able to actually program my first robot. It was already a decade. But again, another woman stepped into my life and said, hey, I'll give you a chance. I'll let you try. Here's a small project. Work your way up, learn your skills, ask questions. And I even had a graduate research assistant, another woman named Maya, who's now not a graduate researcher, but a professor at a school that I would later attend, who was there by my side every day answering all of my questions about where's the code
Wow.
and how does it work. So yeah, I'm just calling out just all the mentors who were kind of there for me along the way when I started doing that. But I continued to learn. I got my degree, I graduated, and I got my first job working in industry, which funny enough ended up being at Microsoft. And I went from programming robots and learning how to code and wanting to be a developer to ended up working in gaming as a product manager. So just another huge shift. And people ask me all the time, like, why did you choose product management versus software engineering? And for me, I know a few of you do like robotics competitions. I was always the person like creating the plan and the engineering notebook, putting together the presentation, figuring out how are we going to actually execute on this specific schedule. I was very business oriented since I had already started a company. So thinking about not just what features would be cool or fun, but how would they actually improve the experience of our customers and actually solve problems or have help them have more fun. And so choosing to be a product manager was a great blend of my technical skills that I learned from my computer science degree, but also my business, interpersonal, and communication skills that I gained by being an entrepreneur. Gaming is another place where there was an opportunity to feel very isolated and feeling very othered. I know when you picture a gamer, you probably don't picture someone that looks like me, but there are tons of women and tons of people of color who are avid gamers, whether it's on mobile or console or PC. And I was very fortunate to find another community of people who wanted to work on projects and features that would make gaming a better place for everyone. And so I actually got to be on the launch team of the Xbox One, which at the time was a brand new generation of hardware. That's a picture of the console that we all got. It says I made this on there. And it was just like a very rewarding moment for me. And even though it wasn't a robot, it had a Connect. It was still like an intelligent, smart device that I had helped design and develop and squash bugs and just poured so much work into to make something real that would then end up in the homes of millions and millions of people. I learned a lot about shipping consumer hardware and building something that works for lots of people around the world. I actually got to travel the world. So this is me speaking in Germany to a huge audience. There were probably 400,000 gamers at this game conference called Gamescom. And I was telling them about kind of what we were doing to really bridge the gap between PC gaming and console gaming and helping everyone, like I said, play better together. There's definitely a huge divide in the gaming industry about like where you play, what systems, what networks. And I love to see that being kind of slowly chipped away over time. I was very proud to go there and represent my team and also like have a free trip to another country. I actually ended up spending the weekend in Paris by myself after this trip because my company they paid for me to go out and they paid for me to go back and I paid for a train in between. So it's a very nice perk of kind of working in the tech industry that you can really take advantage of the opportunities that can come your way. But yeah, the last thing I did at Xbox before kind of really making a big pivot in my career was launching a feature called Clubs on Xbox Live. And like I said, this is an opportunity for me to help people create communities where they can set their own rules. You can see here, this club does not allow trash talking, even though they are very competitive, right? And so like a club that is safe for women, a club that is safe for people who, just want to take screenshots or just want to play shooters or just want to play whatever. They could create these communities, and that caused a lot less bullying, a lot less judgment, a lot less harassment online, which was, again, my goal was to make gaming better for everyone. And after having that experience kind of in the design and research phase of creating this product, I was like, I think I need more than just an engineering degree to be successful in building great products. And so I ended up going back to school and studying something called human-centered design and engineering at the University of Washington. I honestly, I never thought about grad school. I really didn't. Once I got my first job in industry, I was like, probably never going to go back to school, not going to get a PhD in robotics or anything like that. I think I know enough. But when I went back to grad school, I learned about design. I learned about user research. I learned about sustainable engineering and accessibility and just how to make great products for everyone by taking the time to listen and understand and talk to customers. It felt very similar to what I had done in entrepreneurship in terms of like researching and interviewing and having focus groups with tons and tons of women to figure out what the best products were going to be for their hair or their skin. But here, kind of applying that to an engineering concept, it not just made me a better engineer, but it helped me appreciate the lawyers on my team, the designers on my team, and kind of how all the other disciplines contribute to building a product beyond just, writing the code or building the hardware. So it was a very eye-opening experience for me where I got to do a lot of very interesting projects, which I don't have time to go into. But if you're thinking about, transitioning, not even transitioning, but like going to grad school, I highly recommend of course, you could continue with another technical degree, but something complementary, something creative, something that really kind of stretches you to broaden your horizons. And oh yeah, by the way, I was still running my company. I went from one product to over 30 products, ranging from not just hair care, but we had expanded into body care. We were now carried in Walmart, Target, CVS, Walgreens, all across the country and major retailers, and had just started making plans to go international. So I'll talk more about that later. But yeah,
Wow.
I was in grad school, working 40 hours a week, and still running my company with a
Gosh.
100% remote team. It was a lot. Um, After I graduated, or like almost a year before I graduated, I ended up switching jobs and going to work at a team called Microsoft HoloLens. And I chose that job because I wanted to work on an advanced technology rather than kind of an established system. Like Xbox was 15 years old by the time I left. Microsoft HoloLens was like maybe a year old at that point, and they were still trying to figure out what to do with it. And I was like, oh, I just got a degree in figuring out how to use technology to try and solve different problems. And so I was very excited to join that team. An example of one of the things that we did was we kind of helped doctors really see all the different layers of the human body in augmented reality, and allowed them to have more access and more study than they would normally have in the like maybe one or two cadavers that they have access to in medical school. So there were so many different applications of this technology. But again, I went in there kind of with a learning mindset, with the growth and curious mindset of figuring out, okay, what can we do and how can we make a positive impact? And then one day, a bunch of my friends sent me this Kickstarter about this group called Megabots. And they said, hey, this group wants to build a giant fighting robot to duel against Japan in one of the most epic battles of the history. You should totally support them. And so I funded the project, gave them some of my money, and I was like, I'm so excited. And a couple of years later, was invited down to San Mateo in California to actually ride in this giant 16-ton robot, punch a Prius, and just like really like be around a team that was like building something incredible in the robotics space from scratch. And I was just blown away. I was like, wait, what am I doing working in AR, VR, working in like the metaverse technology when like I'm supposed to be making robots? And if they're making robots that are like I don't know, 16 feet tall, like the two people, like Gundam style mechs, like I could work on robots that help people. And so that was a point where I made a decision, like I'm really going to stick to it. I'm really going to pursue what I wanted to do all along. And I eventually got my first job in robotics. I'm telling you, it wasn't easy. I just applied to every robot job I could find on the internet. Really, I didn't care if I was qualified or not. I didn't care. Even if they weren't hiring, some companies have like an email address that they can say, hey, we might not have an open role, but if you're interested. So I just sent out my resume. I sent out some of the research I had done in college, some of my personal passion projects, on my resume. And eventually this company got back to me and they're like, hey, you're not qualified for this job, but we might have another one opening up soon. So I joined as a technical program manager and got to work on my first humanoid robot full-time. And Pepper kind of worked in a lot of different spaces, mostly as a greeter, mostly helping with customer service type jobs. But it was amazing. Like this now, 20 years after seeing that movie, I finally got the opportunity to work on robots for real. And, just one thing I'll just shout out is that like you guys are getting to work on robots in high school. That would have been like a dream for me to start so early, to graduate before even going to college, knowing how to code, working on complex problems, being able to work on these teams, to compete and to be able to network and meet other people who are as passionate about robotics as I was. So you guys definitely have a leg up on me right now, even though I work in the industry. So congrats to you all for diving in so early. And so I got that opportunity. It was a great team I got to work on. But the startup life was just very, very chaotic, very tough for me. And so I was like, okay, I want to do something completely different. I've lived my dream. I've done it. But is this really what I want to do? And so to be sure, I went to try a few different things. And so I switched over to actually work at Facebook. It was called Facebook at the time. Now it's called Meta. And I worked on a product called the Portal, which is a video communication device that helps people stay connected with their loved ones from far away. And during a pandemic, this product like really jumped off and really was a way that so many families who were stuck sheltering in place got a chance to connect with each other. And on this product, I worked primarily on third-party partnerships, so bringing Spotify, bringing lots of different apps to the platform, but also I worked on, and I'm most proud of the work that I did in accessibility, so helping people who are visually impaired, hearing impaired, cognitively impaired, be able to successfully use the device by adding additional features that specifically help them and support them in their needs. So again, it was very, very much tied into my personal commitment to using technology and specifically focusing on what are ways that there might be undervalued or underrepresented groups or people with special needs that we can not leave behind, but bring along as we develop new technology, no matter what it might be. And so, yeah, it was fantastic. And I really loved just being able to interview different people and learn about their needs. And I was just so passionate about social impact that I was like, I want to do more social impact. I don't even care if it's hardware anymore. I've always worked on hardware my whole career. What if I just did a software only project? What if I made it, like, in my mind, really easy for myself to just like work on software? And so I ended up moving on and working on a product called blood donations. And so if you don't know, you can actually sign up on Facebook to be a blood donor and get alerts when blood banks nearby need blood donations. Now, there's no substitute for human blood. You have to give it, and someone has to receive it within 42 days. And so this was another great opportunity to work in the healthcare space during the pandemic, to go from being in 5 countries to being in over 50 countries around the world, helping them bring their blood drives from being in person, where people weren't going at schools, churches, home, to online, where people can find out where to go, learn about how safe and easy blood donations can be, and really form that habit of contributing to the community in a way that you probably never thought of. So this is another thing I'm going to strongly encourage you to do, to sign up to be a blood donor, to try donating blood this year. Even if you're afraid of needles, your 5 minutes of discomfort can save 3 lives. And I just was, again, super proud to be able to work on really life-saving work and really just like very interesting and creative way to use technology to bring us together, right? There's so many ways that like posting on Facebook and negative comments might like draw people apart, but this was a way where we were trying to use the platform, use our connectedness to communicate needs and be able to support each other. But yeah, you guessed it. I was like, what am I doing? I've done it again. I've gotten distracted from my original passion of working in robotics. I gotta get my head on straight and really get back to you and really try and combine everything I've learned from all of my other jobs, like passionate about social impact, passionate about helping people, passionate about serving different communities and creating opportunities for other people to be successful. And that's when I found Everyday Robots, or the Everyday Robot Project at the time, where that's their goal, to make robots that help everyone in their everyday lives. And this is a project where I won't get bored of. There's so much to do. There's so much for the robots to learn. And I really appreciate that the team is taking a learning first approach where, there are even classrooms at our office where the robots are doing homework and studying and figuring out what to do. And also, just like people need help and mentorship, these robots are getting support and help and mentorship from other humans and getting better every day. And so I'm very excited to be working on this project. And while it's highly confidential and I can't share much, I will say that there are actually a lot of people from all over the world working on this project, right? That's one thing I love about it. There are tons of people from different backgrounds. There are designers, there's a dancer on our team, like so many different perspectives. And some people have never worked in robotics before, and some people like me went to school for it and studied it. And I would say, as you're going out there potentially pursuing a career, there's so many different backgrounds that are going to be valuable to working in the field beyond just being a software engineer. Like, being a software engineer is fantastic, but there's so many other ways that you can contribute, whether it's hardware design or electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, and there's so many different ways that you can contribute. And that's what I love about being on this team, is that it's really going to take tons of different people to be able to deploy not just a prototype or not just a robot that works in very constrained circumstances, but one that can really understand the world and continue to grow and develop to be useful. Cool. Well, we're almost at the end. Don't worry. But by the way, all this time working at all those different companies, I was still running my company, growing my team. We now have over 50 products. We're now in over a dozen countries. You can find us in Australia, in London, in the United Arab Emirates, in Africa, all over. Now my company's products are all over the world. And I'm proud to say, like, going from my kitchen, having a dream, never giving up, having mentors, balancing my time, having clear priorities, and really focusing not just on kind of creating formulations, but on solving problems, not just physical, but mental and emotional as well. So the last thing I'll say about kind of my career journey is, like, this is a photo of me with our lavender aloe collection. And lavender is an ingredient you might know is very beneficial to sleep and rest. And aloe is very great for hydration and growth and soothing your skin and your scalp. And when I thought about kind of what do people need coming out of a pandemic, or after just being in it for so long, what do they need? A lot of people need rest. They're exhausted from the struggle. And a lot of people need growth. They're tired of the same old thing. A lot of people are quitting their jobs, starting something new. And so creating a product line that embodied both rest and growth, that is both for repairing your hair and helping you reimagine wash day as a day where you can celebrate and take care of yourself, rather than being like, oh, okay, I guess I have to do my hair again, like, was something that I wanted to do with this product line. So it's about more than just hair. And the things that I've learned as an engineer, working with data, understanding people's feedback and input, and iterating again and again on different formulations, different label designs, so many things, have really served me as an entrepreneur. So that's my journey to where I am today talking to you. I want
Wow.
to I want to
Okay.
quickly, oh yeah,
No, go ahead, please.
I want to quickly dive into some learnings and lessons, just three of them, super brief, so that I leave plenty of time for your questions, that I've gained through just my whole career and life journey. And the first one is really meaningful to me, is that your career path doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you. As a person who's worked in gaming and AR, VR, and healthcare and communications and in robotics, I've been all over the place. I've worked at businesses big and small. I've worked in major offices and I've worked from home. Like, it doesn't matter. I know that at the core of my being, I want to serve people and I love technology. I also just love the ability to make deep and personal connections with smaller communities that are underserved. And that's what makes sense. That is the line that connects all the dots of all the places I've lived and all the things that I tried. So if one day you decide you want to be a chef and the next day you decide you want to be a dancer, go for it. Maybe it's your creative spirit. Maybe it's your thrill to perform that really inspires you. Or just do both. Be a dancing chef or, be a dancer that cooks. Who knows? Like, you can be whatever combination. You don't just have to be one thing. That's another thing I want to just encourage people, that you can be technical and creative. You can be into art and into technology, or you can be into business and into sports. You can combine a lot of your passions together, and that's okay. The other lesson is that money is not the most important way to measure success. While my company was making millions of dollars very early on, it wasn't the revenue that was coming in from sales that really made me want to keep going and keep working. It was the customer service emails of people saying, thank you, finally something that works for me, or thank you, finally something that I can actually afford, right? Because for me as a kid, I didn't grow up wealthy and I wanted quality, great products for women to not, you know, you have to break the bank to afford them. So what really inspired me was hearing the feedback that I was having the impact on people's lives that I really wanted to see. And that's the same way with my products and technology. It's not about whether we sell a million robots. It's really about how can we help and who can we help, and what are the negative consequences of the work that we're doing, and how can we offset them by doing positive impact or positive investments in other ways. So yeah, if you just want to get a cool job to make a ton of money, you're going to get bored pretty soon. You're going to feel this emptiness and you're not going to want to get out of bed. Uh, Focus on making impact, focus on a problem or a community or something that's truly meaningful to you, and attack it from every angle that you know how. And if you happen to make a ton of money doing it, great, congrats. I hope that you'll use that money to inspire other people or invest in nonprofits that are doing similar work, but giving back. But yeah, I think a focus on money is just a huge distraction. And my last lesson is that I think ultimately our job is just to love people. And no matter what career you do, whether you're a waitress or you're a CEO, our job is to love not just the customers who use our products, but the people that we work with day to day. Some of my best friends, longtime friends, are people that I met in school or people that were my coworkers. And it's never easy. Like, I'm sure you've dealt with this on your team. Different personalities can clash, but I try and be kind to people. I try to be open minded, especially when they're different from me and we don't see eye to eye. I try to listen more than I speak, and be a type of person that draws people in and makes room for new people, whether it's in, just in my friend groups or in work or in school, but also through the products. I always think, who are we excluding by building the future this way or by setting the price this high? how can we be more inclusive or more flexible, allow more options, because everybody is not the same. And so whatever you're creating or designing or building, think about, how is this going to make people's lives better? How can I show love? How can I show um, awesome representation in the work that I do? So no matter what I do, whether it's in beauty or it's in tech, my job is to love people. And yeah, and I think it's a very rewarding career to look back on. Even like, I'm only 30, not that much older than you all, but it's been a very rewarding career because I know that ultimately I've been able to show love and be supported and support other people in their lives. So lastly, before I wrap up, I wanted to share some advice for you. And this is for whether you want to be a roboticist or you want to be an entrepreneur. Like I said, focus on discovering what people need. You might invent something that's super cool, but who knows if anybody actually needs it? Start with falling in love with a problem, an issue. Like when you get assignments for your robots that you have, they give you a challenge to say, this is the issue. This is what you actually need to accomplish. This is how you score points. This is how you know that you're being successful. And so whether you're starting a company or want to build a new device, be clear about that motivation and that why and that need that you're solving. Next, like I said, work with diverse teams. If your team is all women, or if your team is all guys, or everyone is short, or everyone is tall, or everyone wants to be a coder, like, you're not going to have a team that is diverse enough to bring the different skill sets. You might want to bring a designer on your team, or you might want to bring an athlete on your team, or just someone with a different background or perspective than you. I'm telling you, working with teams where more people are different, working together can be tough, but it always brings new ideas that one person would have never thought of because of the exposure that they've had in life. And lastly, I'll say, be creative about your experiments. Try new things. Have fun. Be silly, or be really strict and regimented about your constraints. But always try and mix it up and push yourself and ask, what if? Right? Sometimes when I was working in robotics, we would literally role play and pretend to be the robot and imagine like what its struggles and challenges would be. Will it fit in this doorway? Will it fit under the table? Can it reach that far? Same deal. When I was working in Xbox, I played hours and hours and hours of games of very different types because I wanted to know, what was the experience of actually being a gamer. I don't want to just watch them, but I want to use the thing that I make and figure out what challenges they might face firsthand, but also listen to them. So those are 3 tips that I think will really serve you well in being a creator and a problem solver. So lastly, I just want to pull up these 3 Black women, amazing role models. One of them is working in industry. So she's the founder of Robotics, Ayanna Howard. She actually was a professor of mine at Georgia Tech. She's now a dean, a board member, a CTO, running a robotics company that also really supports kids, really focused on supporting kids. So she's a huge role model for me in terms of really combining robotics and entrepreneurship, but also still staying close and being an educator. The next is Carlotta Berry. She's a professor. I believe she just got tenured. She calls herself a noir feminist. So she's always about elevating women, elevating people of color, creating space within academia, which again is just like not super diverse right now. She braves a lot of different challenges in her field, as well as being highly technical and a great mentor to dozens of students. She's just so passionate about connecting people and building community. And then lastly is Kimberly Bryant. She's the founder of a nonprofit called Black Girls Code, and they host workshops and training sessions for really specifically trying to get more Black women into the field, right? We might not be so lucky to have schools that have programming courses. And so she creates programs all across the country that give you an opportunity to, again, be in a community of people who are, might have similar backgrounds to you and really have a breakthrough. I think all of these women really paved the way for me to kind of show up and have someone to look up to, right? There might not have been other Black women at all doing what they're doing, right? And they just like really paved the way. So whether it's through starting a company or being a professor and staying in academia or starting a nonprofit to really change the face of computing, all of these women, I've personally met them all, have touched my life, have encouraged me to keep moving forward. So I highly recommend that you find other role models who may come from where you come from, or might speak the languages that you speak, or are passionate about the things that you're passionate about, and connect with them, because these women are decades ahead of me in my career. And I know that I can read their books or watch their lectures, or always have someone to look forward to and say, hey, that's a great role model that I can look up to, or ask for advice or lean on. And I'm always happy to be that person for any of you, regardless of your background or your interests. I really just love coaching and mentoring. So yeah, feel free to connect with me across social media. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm also on a platform called Superpeer, where I offer coaching sessions, whether it's about technology or entrepreneurship or just brainstorming new ideas. It's my way of staying open and meeting people all across the world. So thank you so much for listening to my journey. And I hope that you've been inspired by what I've been able to share. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I can say that I've been inspired by just listening to you talk about this. There's actually so much to process, like how much you did. Uh, and you're only 30, which is like, oh my gosh. But anyways, so we have a couple questions. So the first one is from Isha. Whoa, it's super inspirational that you started a business in middle school. How did you go about that?
Yeah, so like I said, I started learning about entrepreneurship at a business camp hosted by the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. So nfte.com. You can find a program near you. There are lots of different schools as well that offer nifty entrepreneurship education as an after school program, or even as a part of their normal school curriculum. But if you go on their website, you can see there's lots of books where you can self teach. There are templates on how to start your own business plan, and you can walk through and literally just fill in the blank, right? But it's going to start with, like I mentioned before, what problem are you trying to solve? What community are you trying to serve? How will you measure success? What will be the costs of running this business? What type of return on investment? Researching the market, things like that. My parents were very supportive of me. And I will say that's definitely something that I was very fortunate and blessed to have parents who said, you can use your allowance for whatever you want. If you want to use your allowance to buy oils and herbs and spices and bottles, and if you want to use the family printer to print labels, like, we'll drive you, we'll take you. So it was just very awesome to have them support me very young. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually the next question, which is how does your family support you in your projects?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were very supportive. They let me use the kitchen to mix and match and use all my formulations. Eventually, I took over my entire family's basement and turned it into a factory. You know, filled it with labeling machines and 55-gallon drums of sweet almond oil and hundreds of completed bottles. I would pick, pack, and ship orders out of my basement. They were very, very supportive in that way. Like I said, my sister, my mom were my first employees. My aunt used to work customer service. My dad even supported me. My cousins, like, I couldn't have done it on my own. Like, I don't want to give you under any impression that I just carried the whole company on my back. I always had a team of people really supporting me and cheering me on. And even today, as I work full time in robotics, I have a team of women across the country who run day-to-day operations, customer service, social media, design. Like, it's always been a team sport, whether it's robotics or whether it's entrepreneurship. And these people become like family because we support each other and we're so dedicated to the mission.
Okay, and I'm actually curious, like, how did you create your first product? Like, did you research different ingredients and how they would go together and how they would benefit your skin, or like something like that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. I said,
Oh.
these are the challenges that I'm having. For me, I wanted my skin to heal, right? I wanted to to grow. I also learned, like, it wasn't just about what I put on my body, but what I put onto my body or into my body. Um, and so I started drinking more water, right? Because hydration is great for growing and keeping your
Yeah.
skin healthy. I started exercising, right? Because I wanted to make sure that I was really releasing toxins and just like physically fit as well, right? Really taking vitamins. Like, I I just want to take care of my body, and I learned a lot about health and wellness through this journey as well. But I do incorporate kind of into the marketing and education of the company. But I really just went to the library, got a lot of books, and was like, okay, lavender does this, peppermint can do this. And then I would reference this kind of notebook. Eventually I put it on a computer, but reference the notebook and say, okay, have someone who has dryness and itchy scalp. So maybe they would like this ingredient and this ingredient. And I would mix them together, the texture, the smell, even the price, right? So I said, okay, if I use 2 ounces of this, it costs me $2, right? If I use 5 ounces of this or this thing and together and say, okay, can I really afford to sell something that has these ingredients and these benefits? Would people like it? And so I made a lot of small batches that I would send out to people to try, friends, family, and got feedback and then narrowed it down to, okay, this is the price range I want to stay into. These are the top 3 concerns that I'm going to prioritize formulas for. And when I talk about experimenting in creative ways, I actually put a survey on my website to ask people, what are your concerns? Are you allergic to any types of things? Tell me about it. And allow people to create custom blends of their own products based on what their concerns were. And so just through people filling out all the combinations of this form, it gave me dozens of different formulas for like, hey, here's something that can help dry scalp or, breaking hair for someone who's allergic to peppermint and blah, blah, blah. Like, and that was something where in the form, right? I basically on the back end, it's like a little algorithm that would match, hey, here are the options for itchy scalp, like from my notebook that would work for this. And a lot of the times I kind of did that mapping by hand until I put it into the computer to automatically do it. But then I was like, okay, some of these formulas, this person has reordered 2, 3, 4 times. I might actually turn that into its own product line in the future. So yeah.
Wow, that's very impressive. Okay. The next question is, how did you become involved in STEM in high school?
Yeah, I was very fortunate in my middle school that they invested in a program called Project Lead the Way. We didn't have first or next or any type of robotics like that, but I applied in middle school to an engineering academy that would be in my high school, and our funding got approved. And so I actually got to study engineering while in high school. It was tough because I had to get up at 5 a.m. And go to school before school started to take like gym and an engineering class so that I would still have time in the day to take all my other regular high school and AP courses. And I was on the basketball team at the time.
Oh my
And so,
gosh.
yeah, being able to take courses like principles of engineering, computer integrated design and manufacturing, like programming classes, extra physics classes, extra math, like that was the way that I got involved. And each course kind of gave you a project. So we weren't just learning from the books, we were building and collaborating and working together in a very small group. So maybe out of 2,000 kids in my school, there were only 17 of us who were focused on studying engineering. Yeah. But
Wow.
that exposure early on really was a game changer. And honestly, it really set me apart when I decided to go to engineering school because I already had some experience, even if it wasn't college credits.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, great. Okay, and there's no more questions in the chat, but I do have a question of my own, which
Sure.
is like, so all of this, all of your robotics accomplishments came from one movie. Um, so do you want to talk more about like what specifically in that movie like actually inspired you?
Yeah. Well, it just painted a picture of a reality that I thought it doesn't exist, right? There aren't
Yeah.
robots that are in our home helping people. And we imagined it. And it wasn't in outer space, right? It was in everyday life, folding our laundries, helping cook dinner, tutoring our kids, like mowing lawns, like just doing all the dull, dirty, dangerous stuff that, like that people like shouldn't have to do or don't want to do, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I was like, why don't we have that today?
And
Why
you're like,
not? Why doesn't it exist?
let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it, right? And that was like as a young kid, I mean, nothing felt impossible for me, right? No one ever told me that I can't be an engineer or like that women aren't engineers, right? When I got to school and when I was looking for mentors in the industry, I later learned, even further in school, you start learning about all these male scientists and not about women scientists, which there are a ton of. I actually recommend a movie called Picture a Scientist, which is just
Okay.
a great movie about women scientists. But, when I was 8, I still felt like I could do and I could be anything. And I really locked that into my heart. So despite what the reality of the world was, I was like, I'm not focused on reality today. I'm focused on the future. And it was really inspiring to me to be able to say, okay, I want to make that happen. And even trying to figure out when I got to college, I studied electrical and computer engineering to start because I thought that I wanted to physically build the robots themselves. But then I took my first programming course at the college level, and I was like, no, 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 I don't care about the bodies. I care about the brains. I like algorithms and logic, and even switch my major to computer science. So Yeah,
Yeah.
just helping robots understand the world and connect and designing businesses around, what robots can do to support us is really what I took away from that movie. Oh, as one more thing about the movie is that he was very emotional. He was
Oh,
different from all the other robots. He had feelings and desires and dreams. He wasn't just um, kind of like a empty personality type of robot, and that was something that initially the family was like, whoa, that's weird, I kind of just want you to do whatever I want you to do. But when it was demonstrating creativity, when he was demonstrating real relationships with humans and learning, I knew that like those were going to be important parts of the robots that we build in the future. So making robots that are not just safe but enjoyable to work around, robots that can be dynamic and creative and kind of learn from their experience, learn from their mistakes, just like people do, was something that also that I took away from that movie that inspires my work today.
wow. All right. That makes sense. Okay. But I think that's all the questions for today. So thank you so much for this talk. It was super inspirational. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone else did too. So if you have nothing else to say, I think that's it for today.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me, and just best of luck as you pursue your careers, whatever they may be.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.